Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain. Today the topic of our show is why are more than 1 million Rohingya in Myanmar considered the most persecuted minorities in the world? To discuss this topic, we have with us today Alfons López Tena, the ex-deputy of the Parliament of Catalonia and also the former member of Spain's Council of the Judiciary. Welcome to our show, Alfons López Tena. This is Zain. It's a pleasure to have you on Tactical Talk.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Zain. How do you do?
Alfons López Tena, let's get to the first question. Who are the Rohingya and what is their ethnic background?
Well, the Rohingya Muslims, it's a people that live at the Rakhine state in south coastal Burma, or Myanmar, as it's called today, and they live there for generations. They say that they went there from Arabia, from Persia, as traders, and established there, so they have thrived, and there are more or less 2 billion people, 2 million Rohingya people. But the Burmese, and they are Muslims, the Burmese, the main Burmese, that are Buddhist, as you know, they don't accept that. They say that it's just immigrants, that they went inside the country when British Raj in India, when Myanmar was incorporated into the Indian Raj. So they treat them as illegal immigrants, even if it's 4, 5, 6 generations living there, so they want to expel them. That's the root of the problem we live with. It's xenophobia and it's not acceptance of minorities in a country, in Myanmar.
Let's get to the second question. What is the history of the Rohingya Muslim massacre? When did it all start?
It has always, since independence. I mean, since the Second World War and independence. In the British time, British had the empire, the British Empire, the British Raj on India, as I told you before, and Myanmar was a part of that, was conquered at the end, part of the second half of the 19th century. So it was a colonial situation, but it was not ethnic cleansing between the different people that were there. In the Second World War, Rohingyas stayed faithful to the British, so they fought against the Japanese invaders. And Buddhists, this part of the country that was Buddhists, they were mainly in favor of Japan. So when British retired and Japan conquered Myanmar, there was a lot of hundreds of thousands of killings and expelling from Myanmar to India, that was under the British dominion. After that, in the independence, at first, after the Second World War, at first Rohingyas were recognized citizenship, but it was stripped off at the 80s. So they have had a situation of more than 70 years that are not being recognized, not even recognized as the name, without citizenship, without any access to health services, to education. They are not allowed to travel inside the country. And in the last years, after the dictatorship, or the half dictatorship, half democracy that Myanmar is nowadays, this kind of, it has intensified at the 90s and nowadays since last year, because there is small organizations that fight for the Rohingyas with stones and with machetes. They have no more than that. But it has been the alibi for the Burmese army to launch a total assault. In fact, one of the generals have said this day that it's time to finish the work we started in the Second World War and to expel all Rohingyas out of Myanmar. And it's also a lot of intercommunal violence in all these years between Muslims and Buddhists. because there are organizations, very powerful organizations, political, that are led by but it's monks. And the call that, well, they have to leave the country. It's not so different from ISIS, what ISIS do, what the Buddhist monks are doing nowadays in Burma, in Myanmar.
Alfons, Lopez, Tena, why is the Burmese government killing the Rohingya Muslims? What are their arguments? I mean, what do they say to justify all this?
Well, their argument is they don't belong here. They are not Burmese people. They were immigrants, so they are illegal immigrants, so they have to flee. They have to quit the country. It's just ethnic cleansing. In fact, nowadays, it's more or less 200,000 Rohingyas that have fled towards India and Bangladesh, and also by boat to Malaysia, to Indonesia. And there are 1 million more or less left in Burma, and the aim of the government and of the army and of the bulk of the overwhelming majority of the Burmese people and bodies is to expel them, to kill them and to expel them.
You are the former deputy of the Catalonian parliament, also a European politician and intellectual. What is the stance of Europe on the killings done by Burma, Myanmar, on the Rohingya Muslims?
Till now, it hasn't happened anything at all, till now, because it's a public opinion, journalists, that has begun to get aware of that, because it's a very far away country. It's there is a curfew information, so there are no journalists on place. They have to be at the other part of the frontier, Bangladesh and India. So it has been difficult to get any news of what was going on there. Nowadays, I think that the important matter for us, I mean public people or journalists or yourselves in television, is making people aware. Because if people moves on that, then their governments will have to act. Till now, it's just, as far as I know, it's only the Malaysia government that has stated anything. But no action has been taken by any government, not in Europe, not in Asia, not in Southeast Asia.
What is the European public opinion in specific and overall public opinion in general?
The public opinion is, well, the European public opinion at least, is always very, very strong against any kind of atrocities, of ethnic cleansing, and all that. You remember at the 90s when it was something like that in the former Yugoslavia, in Bosnia and Croatia, or afterwards in Kosovo. The European public opinion is what's strongly against that and in favor of Muslims. So that led their countries, their governments, to act and to intervene there, and to end the ethnic cleansings and the war. So it's the same thing now. But the difference is that, as I told you before, Myanmar is very, very far away, and there is no real information about Myanmar, because the last 70 years it was a military dictatorship that closed the country. So people are not really used to discuss to this case and to what happens, who are the Rohingyas, where is Myanmar, because the image of Myanmar in Europe nowadays was very, very good because of Aung San Suu Kyi. She was given the Nobel Prize when she fought against the dictatorship of the army junta in Myanmar. So it's difficult to change place and to see that a freedom fighter like her, now she is condoning and she is leading a country that kills their own people, that is wanted to kill 1 million people or to expel.
Okay, Alfons, López, Tena, let's get to the last question. What do you think is the solution to this heinous massacre, and how could the world get together to stop this genocide?
Well, the problem is always the same, is that a government can more or less do whatever it wants with its own people. The only way to act is pressure, is to sanctions in trade, in relations, diplomatic relations between one or the other countries, I mean, is to pressure this government not to do that.
Thank you so much, Alfons López Tena, for being on Tactical Talk. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks very much, Zain.
This was Alfons López Tena, the ex-deputy of the Parliament of Catalonia and also the former member of Spain's Council for the Judiciary. We were discussing the Rohingya massacre in Myanmar, its history and its solution. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain Khan. Take care and goodbye.